these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
We made it all the way through the week, and here it is on a Friday. Hey, hello, everybody. Great to see you this Friday, August 22nd. Thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live on Free Speech TV, all across this great land of ours. You know how to get there. You got a satellite dish. You can find us on the Dish Network or on DirecTV, of course. And worldwide, wherever you happen to be on this great planet, you can find us on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. On the news front today, all quiet in Ferguson, Missouri, so quiet that the governor of Missouri, Jay Nixon, has told the National Guard that they can pack up and go home. Let's hope it stays that way. And let's hope the grand jury soon comes up with some charges against police officer Darren Wilson. Let's not forget what sparked all of those protests. On the Iraq-Syria front, we find out that ISIS had demanded their ransom for James Foley, not killing James Foley, $132 million. And, of course, President Obama refused to pay that ransom and to fuel ISIS and give them even more resources to conduct their war of terror in that region. The Chuck Hagel yesterday, Defense Secretary, said, "We have never seen a terrorist group ever as dangerous as ISIS." And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says, "We'll never be able to defeat ISIS until we bomb terrorist targets inside of Syria." That's a big escalation. We'll see what President Obama does about that. And the 2 American Ebola patients were released from the hospital in Atlanta yesterday. No more traces of Ebola in their bloodstream. Good news for them. All of that coming up here on the Bill Press Show this Friday. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Governor Jay Nixon orders the National Guard to pack up and get out of Ferguson. Things are improving every day. Hello, everybody. It is Friday. Woohoo! Friday, August 22nd. Man, we love them Fridays around the Bill Press Show. We know you do, too. How can you not like it? Every Friday's a good Friday here, and it's good to be with you indeed all across this. What are you ready for another one?
I'm just following your lead, man.
I see your finger on the button.
Cocked and loaded. There we go. Let's give it one more time.
All right. Can't have too many hallelujahs on a Friday. Yes, indeed. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the show, the Bill Press Show, this Friday on your local progressive talk radio station. Everywhere in this land of ours, we are there with you on the radio this Friday. And if you don't have a progressive talk radio station near you, you know you can find us on iHeartRadio. Go through iHeartRadio's Bill Press Show to one of our great local affiliates, or rather on the TuneIn app. That's easy enough. It's free. Download it. TuneIn app, and you are with us on the Progressive Voices channel. For the video inclined, we are there with you on Free Speech TV, and happy to be starting the day on Free Speech TV on DirecTV on your satellite dish, and worldwide. Thank you for joining in from Estonia to Latvia to India to Thailand. You are there with us on TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV. Peter Ogburn heading up the crew this morning. Elisa Murphy's got the day off. Hello.
Happy Friday.
Couple of days off. Friday. Alicia Cruz here. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Remember, you're part of the conversation. Anytime, any topic, give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. Or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show, and on the video stream and Free Speech TV. You see us thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, rounding out the week as well. And I'm a little jealous because both Cyprian and Peter were at the Nats game yesterday. I was not. Again, you're just going to have to put up with us. You're going to have to tolerate the fact that we have a red-hot baseball team here. The Nats yesterday winning number 10 in a row in the fashion that has become the MO for the Heart Attack Nats.
Heart Attack Nats.
Of the last 10 games, 5 or 6.
No, out of the last 6 games, 5 of them have been won in walk-off fashion.
5 out of the last 6 in walk-off fashion.
10 straight wins.
10 straight wins. And yesterday, and it was so funny because Carol and I were watching the news. Carol, who's a diehard Nats fan, of course, I said, I've got to check and see how the Nats are doing because she knew it went into the 9th inning tied 0-0. And we tuned in just to watch Anthony Rendon, as he did the day before, step up to the plate in the bottom of the 9th and do the job.
Here's the set. Marshall the pitch, and a swing and a ground ball to third. It's a fair ball, handled by Pacheco. Low throw, gets away, goes into the camera well. It's an error. It's out of play. It's a throw from fair territory. That means 2 bases. Here comes Span. It's a walk-off winner.
A walk-off win again, and so he hit the third baseman threw it to first, and
he got a little help from the Diamondbacks on that one because he would have.
He did. Yeah,
he should have been out. But
he would have been out. He would have been out. Yeah.
Winning on an err is not a bad way to win, though. Still a win.
No, but the whoever it was, the announcer on television said, now the other teams are just handing them games.
That's right.
Yeah, right. But it was pretty exciting. It must have been very exciting to be there.
It was very exciting to be there. It was a very good game. And you know what's funny is everybody, like, you hear the buzz around the stadium, right, as we're going into the 5th and the 6th and the 7th, and it's 0-0. And it was going, here we go. We got another nail biter.
I'm telling you, it makes it easy to watch Nats games because you only have to tune in for the bottom of the last, whatever the last inning is. So they go into extra innings. The bottom of the last inning is when you tune in, and that's it. By the way, yesterday it was the same pitcher pitching to Anthony Rendon, and the same thing happened the day before. That same pitcher pitching Anthony Rendon. That time he hit a single, right?
Yeah, he hit a single, knocked somebody in. Yeah, I wouldn't pitch.
No, double. Drove in 2 runs.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Yeah. I wouldn't. I wouldn't use that same pitcher against Anthony Rendon anymore.
No, I wouldn't either. All right. Hey, on a Friday, Susan Page joins us a little bit later this hour. Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. We'll get the latest on that soap opera from Richmond, Virginia. I love Bob McDonnell's defense is blame it on the wife. Blame it on the wife. Man, that defense has been around as long as humanoids have been around. Blame it on the wife. Yep. We'll also check in Ferguson, Missouri, and we'll talk about what we should be doing, what we can possibly doing about the threat of ISIS, and should President Obama be playing so much golf? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, do you like Oreo cookies?
I do.
They're good. They're classic.
Oreo cookies over the break, actually.
Did you really?
The grandkids.
With the grandkids? Sure. We always have Oreo cookies in the house. Well, they've recently started having sort of stunt flavors. They did a fruit punch flavor. They've done a peanut butter filling Oreo cookie. Well, there's a new one.
Peanut butter? No.
They have a new one. Exclusive to Target stores. Coming soon. A limited edition caramel apple flavor Oreo. It's a vanilla sandwich cookie, and then they have a swirl of apple and caramel in the middle, and it's sandwiched between the two vanilla Oreo cookies.
I'm just like, just give me my classic Oreo.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'll mess with the peanut butter Oreo. I like a peanut butter. The peanut butter and chocolate thing.
I love peanut butter, but not in an Oreo.
We're a classic Oreo family most of the time. I don't know that I'm going to try this caramel apple one now. I'm just saying. This man's name is...
You have to stand for something, you know?
That's right.
You have to have some principles.
That's right. If we slip on that, you know. This man's name is his destiny. A Virginia man was arrested and charged with manufacturing marijuana. The man, 42 years old, of Unionville, Virginia.
Wait a minute. Growing or manufacturing?
Manufacturing. So he was basically... What happens is if you're growing it, and then you trim it of seeds and stems and things like that, then that is they call that manufacturing, because that means that you're intending to sell it. So the man was arrested and charged with illegal possession and manufacturing. The man's name, Paul Scott Stoner of Unionville, Virginia. He really didn't have a chance with a name like that, did he?
No, that's right. He's in the right business.
That's right. And a new report from the Surgeon General titled The Health Consequences of Smoking, 50 Years of Progress, has some very interesting statistics. We don't have time to go through all of them, but one very noticeable thing that's a takeaway of how far we've come as a nation of people who smoke in America. Basically, if you haven't started smoking by the age of 26, you're never going to start smoking. So the key here is for, tobacco companies, they really are aiming at young people, because once you hit 26, this is the threshold.
Wow.
Once you hit 26, virtually no one starts smoking after that age.
We haven't talked about it for a while, but that's, again, why they're coming up with so many flavors for these e-cigarettes.
That's right.
To get young kids into e-cigarettes, and then... they like the habit, and then they jump into the real stuff. Yeah. All right, Peter, indeed, lots and lots of talk, and I'm sure you've caught up with some of it, about President Obama's vacation plans and mounting criticism over the fact that the president's taking so much time away and playing so much golf. What is the truth of it? Let's talk about it here at 866-55-PRESS. In fact, front page analysis, if you will, or reflection, a commentary on the front page of the New York Times this morning by our good friend Peter Baker, who covers the White House for New York Times and has been here in studio with us, who wrote the great book just published about 2 or 3 months ago about the relationship between George Bush and Dick Cheney called Days of Fire. At any rate, Peter Baker takes a look at some of those questions, and the criticism comes on several levels. The first is the president taking too much vacation? All right, a lot of people are saying, look, he should not have gone away at all. After all, the world's on fire. We got the situation in Iraq. We got ISIS. We've got the civil war continuing in Syria. There is the big war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. Things are falling apart at the border with 52,000 kids coming across. With all of this going on, how dare the president go away on vacation? Well, you know what I say to that? Forget it. Forget it. Of course a president's got a right to take a vacation. I mean, Barack Obama and his family, 2 weeks in Martha's Vineyard. And we do know also that the president, wherever he is president of the United States. He takes his team with him. Susan Rice, National Security Advisor, was there. Eric Holder, Attorney General, was there for a while. He can bring anybody in. He's got all the communication possibilities that he has at the White House. Wherever he is, he can still do the job, and he can stay on top of stuff and still be out of Washington, D.C. And remember, George W. Bush went the entire month of August to Crawford, Texas, which was not only longer than President Obama ever spent anywhere, but to a worse hellhole. I mean, anybody who would spend the month of August in the freaking Texas desert, I don't know, let me just say, strange choice. So, should the president go on vacation? Of course he should have gone on vacation. So the other criticism is he's playing too much golf, damn it. I mean, it's over 180 games so far. I don't know. It's maybe not 200, but it's getting close to 200. And people say, come on, he's got to tone it down. He's just got not play so much golf. To which, again, I say, forget about it. Look, this is, does he play a lot of golf? Yes. My criticism of the golf game would be that he ought to open it up a little bit, not always play with the same buddies, not always play with his trip director, not always play with his staffers, but, open it up to some American business leaders, maybe. Open it up to some Republicans and Democratic members of Congress, some senators, some members of Congress. Make some deals, form some friendships. That's a lot of time. And people love the thrill of being able to play golf with the President of the United States. Instead, with President Obama, it's always a very closed, tight little group. You could name on one hand the members of Congress that he has played golf with in the last six years.
And think about in real life, all the business that gets done on a golf course.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect for that.
Absolutely. But that'd be my only criticism. But in terms of for President Obama, obviously, this is his way of relaxing. This is his way of kind of staying in control and keeping his distance from some of these things. And so good for him. Now, the third criticism is, though, I think a little more justified, and that is Wednesday. Wednesday, where President Obama, first of all, at Martha's Vineyard, he came out and made a very strong statement about the beheading of James Foley, American photojournalist, by the terrorist group ISIS, because we refused to pay the $132 million ransom. Remember that statement? Very strong, very angry President Obama up on Martha's Vineyard.
The United States of America will continue to do what we must do to protect our people. We will be vigilant and we will be relentless. When people harm Americans anywhere, we do what's necessary to see that justice is done, and we act against ISIL, standing alongside others.
And the president, remember, first of all, he called the parents of James Foley, had a long talk with them. Then he walked in and made this statement, and turned right around, hopped in the SUV, and went right to the golf course, and 8 minutes later, he was teeing off on the first tee. That, I think, was a little, come on. It was not just the optics was bad. Certainly the optics were very bad. But I think it showed, unfortunately, an insensitivity on the president's part to the timing of those two things back to back. And he kind of got caught in the same mess that George W. Bush got caught in. If you remember, at one point, he was at the golf course, and before he teed off, he told me, he said, there was some statement about Israel and the Palestinians, and he was saying a very strong statement in support of Israel, and then right away, standing there, he said to reporters, "Now watch this swing." Karl Rove talked about that with Bill Hemmer yesterday on Fox News.
Now, I don't know how you feel about this criticism, because I know your former boss took a lot of heat for going to Texas. Is the criticism fair? How do you evaluate it?
Yeah, look, Bush, the criticism about going on vacation for President Bush was really unfair. But what was fair criticism was he made a statement regarding an attack upon Israel while he was vacationing in New England. And this really caused President Bush to examine his behavior in a time of war, and it ultimately caused him to decide to give up golf for the balance of his presidency.
He did. No, I don't think Obama should go that far, but he sort of made the same mistake George W. Bush there. And this is one case maybe in the history of humankind.
No,
I would agree with Karl Rove.
Oh my God.
That smarter people around President Obama should have said, "Hey, you know what? Just don't play golf today."
Somebody made a mistake. They should have thought this thing through. They should have said the president's going to go out and make a comment on this. So shouldn't we get the golf? Why don't we get the tee time tomorrow? Or why don't we get the tee time in 4 or 5 hours rather than 8 minutes later?
Come on. He could have waited. He could have gone one day without playing golf, don't you think? President Obama taking too much vacation, playing too much golf, or maybe playing one game that he shouldn't have played? Tell me about it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, President Obama, of course, was not fazed by criticism that he played golf back-to-back with making the statement about James Foley on Wednesday. He showed that by going out yesterday and playing another round of golf, his eighth round of golf in 11 days on Martha's Vineyard. Is he taking too much vacation? Is he playing too much golf? I would say no to both of those. Should he have played golf on Wednesday right after making that statement on James Foley? I think that was tone deaf. Peter, I know you got some comments.
Yes, indeed.
There.
We're on Twitter at BP Show.
866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number.
And on Twitter at BP Show. Stephanie Palmer says this is just another silly right-wing comment. Why shouldn't he play golf? And Kristen says, of course he should play golf to decompress. Have you seen how gray he has gotten?
Again, playing golf to decompress, yes. I'm talking about that one golf game right after James Foley. I think that was one golf game too much. Sherry in Chicago on WCPT. Hi, Sherry.
Good morning, everyone. Enjoy your show as usual. I think that the president should have finished his vacation, have a few more rounds of golf, because he's damned if he do and damned if he don't.
How about that one game, though, Sherry?
That one game he should have done. I think he's just sick of the politics, and there's so much politics going on in Washington. It's his last term. Let the guy have his vacation.
All right. I hear you, Sherry. I'm sorry. We disagree on this one. I just think that one time, just that one day, President Obama, go read a book. Go to the beach.
Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, at 33 minutes after the hour, here we go. The Bill Press Show, Friday. We're talking about President Obama and his vacation, and particularly his golfing, and especially golfing on Wednesday immediately after making a phone call to James Foley's parents, condemning the execution of their son, and then 8 minutes later teeing off at his favorite golf course up on Martha's Vineyard. The New York Times talking about it this morning on the front page. Our friend Peter Baker with Julie Hirschfield Davis, and the headline, "A Terrorist Horror, Then Golf. Incongruity Fuels Obama Critics." It is a question of optics, for sure, that one particular golf game. Not that optics account for everything, but they do count for something. And unfortunately, the optics in this case give the impression that the president either doesn't care or didn't take that execution that seriously, which is not the case at all. But I'm saying gives that impression when you can so quickly pivot from condemning it to going out and then forgetting all about it and playing golf for the next 5 hours. And as I said, the president didn't care about that criticism. He went out again yesterday and played his 8th game in 11 outings. It's the one on Wednesday that I find just not condemning the man. I'm just saying, in this case, I think his White House aides, and he made a mistake. Ike is down in Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, Ike. Our buddy Ike. What's going on?
Hey, happy Friday. Thanks for putting me on the Peter Ogborn extravaganza. Oh, wait, that's right. You're not on vacation this week.
Yeah. Careful there, careful, buddy. I know. You guys from Charleston hang out too much together.
That's right. You stick together, you know.
You've had more vacation than President Obama. I think it's all poppycock. To tell you the truth, I mean, you know, you talk about business deals being done on the golf course. I think that's just a little jealousy between you and Peter. You'd like to get out there, but beyond that, you know, there's some people, they just like, you know, that's where they do a lot of their thinking. And if there's anything that a president needs, if you didn't learn it from the last one, God, I hope he's got time to think about things before he does anything.
You make a good point. You make a good point on that. All I'm just saying is, and by the way, sure, I'd love to play golf with Obama, although it'd be pretty embarrassing for him.
You beat him that bad?
No, for him, I beat him. I beat him that bad indeed. And yes, I do take more vacation than President Obama. That's because I work harder. Robert is calling from Lawrence, South Carolina. What's going on in South Carolina
My
here?
people.
We've lost control of the show here. Robert, hello.
Yes,
good morning.
I don't have any problem with Obama playing golf on a Wednesday after making that comment. What I do have a problem with is the people that are critical of his golf games are the same ones that applaud Congress for doing nothing.
Well, that's true. Some of them are. Yeah. I'm not defending Congress at all, right, Robert? You make a good point about that. But clearly, I just think in this one case, and appreciate the call. I just think in this one case, it is you could defend it as saying President Obama going out to play golf right after he called this parents and right after he condemned the execution of this photo. That shows that he can compartmentalize. He can do one thing here and then pivot and get his mind totally off that and just focus on his golf game. I understand that. I'm just saying it looks bad. You know what it does? Like the New York Daily News. New York Daily News, which is the liberal tabloid in New York, they put President Obama's picture in the golf cart with a big smile on his face, and then alongside of it, the picture of Foley's parents. And they say, President Obama, and the headline was, Bam tees off while Foley's parents grieve. Didn't need that. Come on. Stay off the golf course for one day.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the George Bush very serious, very stern statement about a very serious topic and literally said, now watch this drive, and turn around and hit it.
And that was kind of worse because he was on the golf course, but it was just sort of the same thing.
But it's not that much different.
No,
it really is not that much different. When you give a serious statement like the president did.
At least Obama didn't have a golf club in his hand.
He didn't have his putter in his hand while he was delivering it. You're right.
Was driver, Peter.
That's right.
Watch this drive.
Watch this drive.
I know you haven't played golf in a long time.
I drive with the putter, yeah.
When you're on the tee, you don't have the putter.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. You're making a point.
But what I was saying, this is not much different. When you literally step from the podium into a car, and the next place you go is the golf course.
8 minutes later, right?
Sorry, and we got a lot of mileage out of making fun of George Bush for that, by the way.
Boy, I did.
Yeah,
and also remember what, and Carl Rove made this point, is at that time, George W. Bush said, okay, I'm not going to play any golf for the rest of my presidency. And he did not. And I think that was going too far. I mean, I'm not suggesting at all that Obama should do that. I don't think Bush should have done it. I don't have a president getting out for the golf course. I'm just saying this one time, I would think those smart people about President Obama might have made a smarter decision. 866-55-PRESS, again, our toll-free number. We're talking about it here with Jesse now from Miami. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Bill. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I think it's a generational gap. I think us older folks lose sleep a lot more than the younger folks, and I think Obama, the way they look at it, they say, okay, yeah, some real bad news, and I think he really hit the bottom with the school shootings with the kids. I think he couldn't sink no lower than that. Since that, I think it's more or less, hey, it's bad news, but he's going to have some fun, and I don't think it's no disrespect to the family or the people that he went to play golf, as long as he didn't do what Bush did.
Yeah. Jesse, that's an interesting point. So what you're saying is that those of us who've been around a while might be more upset by this, and young people really don't see any big deal about it.
Bad news in their generation than what we never seen that stuff growing up. I mean, they've been through this generation.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. That's a good point. And I think you're right. I think young people would be less concerned about it. But you're talking about the presidency of the United States. I just think it sent the wrong image. In Woodbridge, Virginia. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Hey, let it go, please. It's not that bad. I mean, we've got worse things going on. Everybody knows that. But don't feed the Fox freaks. Don't give him fodder. That we got enough. He's got enough on his plate. Thank God we have him in office these days. That's how I look at it.
Oh, I would agree with that, but I just want him to be perfect, Mary. You know?
Well, he's as close as we're going to get. Trust me, he's a politician. He's as close as perfect as we're going to get. But right now, things are bad, are really bad. I'm way more concerned about cops pointing guns at Americans on American soil than I am about a golf game. And I am concerned about ISIL, and I'm glad he's doing something about it. We know he does things about stuff like that. He just doesn't broadcast it. I mean, talk about Bush and his selfies in the bathtub and his oil paintings. But don't feed the Fox Newsies with this.
All right, I got it, Mary. Yeah, we've talked about Bush and his selfies in his bathtub. Again, I've been plenty. I will not apologize for my criticism of George W. Bush, and I don't think I failed in my constant criticism of George W. Bush, all of which he deserved, by the way.
I think the scales are pretty uneven in terms of your criticisms, by the way.
All I'm saying, for a president that I totally support, I think in this one case he might have shown a little more sensitivity to the events of the day and to what he was talking about and to the juxtaposition of one more golf game. It's not like he could... His score would have still been like 192 golf games, maybe.
Right.
Okay. Now 191.
Right.
The difference between 191 and 192. He could have put up with that, I think. Susan Page is standing by. She's the Washington bureau chief for USA Today. We'll check in with her on the news of the day next.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
14 minutes now before the top of the hour. Can't get through the week without checking in with a good friend, Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today, on top of all the news of the day. Hello, Susan.
Good morning, Bill.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So first I want you to weigh in on the issue that we've been talking about so far this hour, which is some criticism of President Obama walking off the podium on Wednesday, condemning the execution of James Foley, and then 8 minutes later teeing off on the golf course. One golf game too many, Susan?
Well, the juxtaposition was a little quick.
Awkward, to say the least, right?
People deserve, presidents especially deserve vacation. So do you, by the way. You deserve a vacation, I deserve a vacation, and neither of us work as hard as President Obama, so he definitely deserves vacation. But, this video of Jim Foley being executed is so horrific that maybe a little bit of bigger interval before the golf game would have been sensitive. But I guess I'm not a big critic of presidents taking vacations, because you can see how demanding that job is and how exhausting it is.
Yeah, look at his gray hair, right? I mean, I'm stunned every time
his manner.
Yeah,
it was really strikingly subdued, angry. You could see that he recognized, of course, as all of us do, how momentous this event was.
No, I agree with you. I've no problem with the president's taking vacation. No problem with his playing as much golf as he does. I think that one game they might have rethought the timing, the timing of that one. It looks like, Susan, that Ferguson, Missouri is kind of winding down and things are getting back to some level of normalcy there. But this is really impacted the entire country, hasn't it?
It has, and it's revived a debate about use of police force, especially against African Americans and other minorities. That's an important debate to have that we've maybe lost. It's not been in the spotlight for a while. The other thing that let's hope that things are on the mend in Ferguson. The other thing is that I find it so interesting, the role that Attorney General Holder is beginning to take on a whole series of issues in President Obama's second term.
Good point.
He is really stepping out in a way. When was the last time we had an attorney general who was really tackling big social issues in a public way? I mean, certainly Robert Kennedy.
I was going to say Bobby Kennedy, maybe. Yeah. In terms of taking a lead role, right? We haven't seen an attorney general active like that for a long time. Right.
And in his visit to Ferguson, and it was interesting also, the Justice Department made it clear that he decided to go there and told the White House, not the reverse. He talked about his own experiences as a black man being stopped by police, even when he was a prosecutor.
Yes.
In ways that he thought he would not have been stopped.
No, that on this issue and on the voting rights stuff, I think Eric Holder is really showing some leadership. Particularly in the second term, I was critical of him for not doing more in the first term, but he's certainly stepping up to the plate. Speaking of stepping up to the plate, Susan, I know you had a chance to talk to him, but the combo from 2012 got together again in Chicago yesterday, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. Now, I want to play a quick clip. This is Mitt Romney urging Paul Ryan to run, and Paul Ryan, if you listen very carefully, is sort of suggesting maybe Mitt Romney ought to go again. Here it is.
So if you get the chance to run for president, do it. It's a great, great thing. The third time's a charm. Yeah.
Ryan said, third time's the charm to Mitt Romney? Now, you talked to Paul Ryan. Tell us about it.
I interviewed Paul Ryan in Janesville, Wisconsin, which turns to be quite a college place.
Yeah.
About his new book and about his plans. And, I came. He didn't say he wasn't going to run for president. But I came away with a strong impression that what he really wants to do is be chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee.
Really?
It's almost a throwback to, we forget that you can be a great legislator because we've had 4 years where no one could legislate their way out of a paper bag,
right?
By and large. But he struck me as somebody who has some ideas, agree with him or not, on poverty programs, on taxes, on spending, on entitlement programs, and that he really wants to do something as chairman of House Ways and Means. And I came away with the impression that he may not run in 2016. Of course, he's got some time. He's only 44 years old.
Right. He is the ultimate policy wonk, right, Paul Ryan?
Yes.
And I mean, if I were advising him, and I've never met him actually, I would say, forget about running for president. Yeah, go for chairman of Ways and Means. First of all, I don't think he'd win the primary. People today, let's face it, right? When they talk about 2016, you hear Rand Paul, you hear Ted Cruz, you hear Marco Rubio, whatever. How many people talk about Paul Ryan for 2016? Yeah. Not a lot.
All right. You know who he reminded me of, and only people as old as us will I guess, feel this way. He really reminded me a lot of Jack Kemp. And Jack Kemp, his mentor, somebody who cared a lot about policy, was always pushing the GOP to try innovative policies, even on urban affairs and other issues that the Republican Party hasn't really focused on. And he's got that because the Republican Party is in more ascendancy now than when Kemp was certainly in Congress. He's got a bigger ability to actually deliver on some of these ideas.
Yeah. Did you ask him about Hillary?
Yes.
And?
He said, formidable, but beatable, and more beatable, he said, than Barack Obama was in 2012.
Really? Wow.
Because she would be running for his third term, and he said she would dispute that. And the problems he's encountered during his second term would make that a very hard row to hoe.
Wow. Now, I haven't had a chance to look into it yet, but I know you just are, I think this morning, publishing a survey on the Senate race in North Carolina.
North Carolina, they're basically a tie. Kay Hagan up by 2 points, and the Libertarian candidate getting 5 points, most of it from Tom Tillis. So that is a race that nobody could call right now.
Wow. But Kay Hagan up by 2, right? Holding on. But I mean, that's a statistical tie, of course. Yeah. I guess the question is whether that Libertarian candidate can maybe Kay Hagan's answer, right?
That's right. Although, historically, those third-party candidates fade when people start to really focus on the race, especially a really close race. So that could be a margin for Tom Tillis. Certainly, that may be the key for Tom Tillis, is to get votes away from Sean Haw, the Libertarian candidate.
Right. And also that North Carolina race could really determine the control of the United States Senate, probably the closest race, right?
Well, of course, we're going to say that of about 6 races.
I know we are, exactly. All right, Susan, you know what? We're done, so you're done for the week. You got it now. Yeah. Enjoy the weekend.
Have a great weekend.
All right, thanks. Susan Page, great job as Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up, and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues, and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like Archimedes said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, in the next hour, you've maybe heard about the big soap opera down in Richmond, Virginia. It's the trial of a former Virginia Governor Robert McDonnell, who blames it all on his wife. And he even said yesterday he didn't know that Rolex watch that she gave him, that Johnny Williams had paid for, he didn't know where it came from. He just thought his wife somehow got enough money to go out and buy that Rolex. We will check in on the McDonnell trial at the top of the next hour here, and then also talk about with the defense reporter from Politico about what we can do and what we should be doing about the threat of ISIS. All of that coming up in hour number 2. Stay tuned for the Bill Press Show this Friday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
We made it. We made it. We made it all the way through the week. And here it is on a Friday. Hey, hello, everybody. Great to see you this Friday, August 22nd. Thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live on Free Speech TV all across this great land of ours. You know how to get there. You got a satellite dish. You can find us on the Dish Network or on DirecTV, of course. And worldwide, wherever you happen to be on this great planet, you can find us on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. On the news front today, all quiet in Ferguson, Missouri, so quiet that the governor of Missouri, Jay Nixon, has told the National Guard that they can pack up and go home. Let's hope it stays that way. And let's hope the grand jury soon comes up with some charges against police officer Darren Wilson. Let's not forget what sparked all of those protests. On the Iraq-Syria front, we find out that ISIS had demanded their ransom for James Foley, not killing James Foley, $132 million. And, of course, President Obama refused to pay that ransom and to fuel ISIS and give them even more resources to conduct their war of terror in that region. The Chuck Hagel yesterday, Defense Secretary, said, "We have never seen a terrorist group ever as dangerous as ISIS." And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says, "We'll never be able to defeat ISIS until we bomb terrorist targets inside of Syria." That's a big escalation. We'll see what President Obama does about that. And the 2 American Ebola patients were released from the hospital in Atlanta yesterday. No more traces of Ebola in their bloodstream. Good news for them. All of that coming up here on the Bill Press Show this Friday. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Governor Jay Nixon of Missouri tells the National Guard it is time to pack up and move out of Ferguson. Proof that things are improving in Ferguson, Missouri. Hello, everybody, and a big Friday, August 22nd. Great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Here, the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on TawkrTV, our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks for joining us this morning, and remember, it's a two-way street here. We're talking about the issues of the day. It's not only important that we tell you what's going on, but you tell us what it all means to you and your family, your community. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, sending us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Elisa Murphy's got the day off today, but Peter Ogburn is wearing both hats today.
Doing what I can, sir. I'm giving it all she's got, Captain.
I know. We thank you for that and making it through the week with us, Peter. Alicia Cruz, standing by to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolton keeping us looking good on the video stream and on Free Speech TV. Have you taken the Ice Bucket Challenge yet, Peter? No?
No.
Are you going to?
I have not been challenged.
Oh. I'll challenge you. I'll challenge you right now, but I'm not going to take it.
Well, that's the thing. You can only challenge
I got it,
when you dump the thing on your head. So no one has...
I'm going to send a check. I want to make it clear.
If someone was to challenge me, or someone were to challenge me, if that happened, I would just make a donation. I'm not going to dump a bucket of ice water on my head.
All right. Okay. You don't have to, but it's important to make a donation. ALS, a wretched, horrible disease, and the ALS Foundation needs your help to find a cure for that disease. But yesterday it didn't go so well with a group of with some firefighters down in Kentucky. They were trying to help out, as I understand it, members of a local team, right? College team.
Yes.
And so they said, here's an idea. We'll get the firefighters to put their extension ladder up, on the hook and ladder, and then dump the ice water down on the entire team.
This is the problem now. They all have to get more elaborate and more production value.
Right, and videotape it. So the entire team, a lot of sports teams have done this, and figures in sports. But in this case, the fire department ladder got too close to a high power line, and a couple of firefighters got zapped. The fire chief tells us what happened.
If you get within a distance of 3 or 4 feet, the energy that surrounds the high voltage wire will actually arc over onto another object, and in this case being the personnel occupying the bucket.
You would think that the firefighters would know that ahead of time, wouldn't you? Sort of.
I mean, they're in the whole rescue danger business.
They put that ladder up all the time. You don't think nobody said, "Oh, there's a high power line there. Maybe we ought to move the location." Anyhow, see,
you'd have thunk we'd have known that.
I warned you. The Ice Bucket Challenge.
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. We're going to check in with the Bob McDonald trial down in Richmond, Virginia, here at the top of the hour. What a soap opera. Later in the hour, we're going to be talking about U.S. policy regarding ISIS after a stern warning yesterday from the Secretary of Defense. But first, Peter with the big headlines of the day.
Court Press. Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. What goes on in North Korea? Very secretive business there, but we now know what some people are downloading in North Korea, according to ScanEye, which is a service that monitors torrent use, people who are downloading TV shows and things like that. What are the people of North Korea watching? Well, there are several downloads. A lot of British television, oddly enough. Top Gear is a very, very big show that they're downloading there. There's also been several downloads of the HBO documentary Manhunt, The Search for Bin Laden. They also download a lot of games, including the number one, Angry Birds. couple of first-person shooter games, and of course, more than anything else,
pornography.
Porn. Yes, American porn.
Starting with Kim Jong-un.
I'm sure he's.
Look at him.
I don't want to put him and porn together. I just,
He's always into it.
Yeah. Thank you to the website GrubGrade. One of their tipsters found out and got photographic evidence that McDonald's is testing mozzarella sticks. You cannot currently get mozzarella sticks at McDonald's, but they're testing them in northern New Jersey and in some places around New York.
String cheese?
Well, it's like a string cheese that's breaded and then deep fried.
Oh,
you get 3 mozzarella sticks for $1, and marinara sauce is included. So you could be seeing that soon on McDonald's menus.
They're testing it where?
In New Jersey and New York. So if it does well there, then they'll roll it out all over the place. So stay tuned. I'm sure you'll see it at your McDonald's drive-thru that you frequent, Bill.
Very
soon.
I'm not going to see it. I didn't go near one.
And another win for the Heart Attack Nats. Baseball's best story right now is right here in Washington, D.C., as they defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks last night. Bottom of the ninth, Anthony Rendon hitting what would be an error double, a double that would be on error. Denard Span on second base to take 2 bases. They ended the game, came right on in. That is the 10th straight win for the Nationals, and 5 out of 6 of their wins have been walk-offs.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I saw that I saw Anthony Rendon's bat yesterday. The alternate bat in the bottom of the ninth, and that's all you had to watch.
Tell you what,
game.
You buy a ticket to a Nationals game these days, you are getting your money's worth
But you don't have to show up to the last inning. It's the way it works. But you're wrong about one thing, Peter. It is not the best. The Nats game is not the best show of the season here in the Washington area. The best show of the season in the Washington area is happening some 150 miles or so south of Washington in Richmond, Virginia, the corruption trial of former Governor Bob McDonnell. Governor McDonnell taking the stand for the second day yesterday in a row in his defense. Jeff Schapiro with the Richmond Times-Dispatch has been covering this trial. Joined us yesterday, and it's so juicy. He's back again today for more. Hi, Jeff. Good morning. Good to talk to you.
Good morning. Y'all really are gluttons for punishment.
Well, you just can't turn away from this. So I want to know this defense. It seems the governor's defense is he blames it all on his wife. I mean, that defense is as old as marriage is. Jeff, is it going to work again? Do you think?
Well, that of course is going to be the jury's call. But if I may, this story has had everyone at both ends of Interstate 95 gripped. I'd like to describe the front page of the Times-Dispatch this morning.
Yes.
This story, of course, has been on A1 for 20 days, if not more. But today's display is particularly interesting. Below the flag is a quote run as a headline. "I was heartbroken that maybe this was the end of our marriage." On the witness stand during his corruption trial, former Governor Bob McDonnell discusses difficulties with his wife, Maureen. Below it, an artist's rendering of the governor's testimony in the towering federal courthouse in downtown Richmond, and then 2 stories below that. So this has had everyone downing some pretty rich coffee and some pretty rich copy over their coffee and breakfast.
Well, yeah, and around the world, I saw it this morning on MSNBC. It's only on A7 in the New York Times this morning, but it's still in the front section of the New York Times. But again, this idea that he's basically, it's no fault of his, right? It was his wife who was out of control.
I think it's important to note that the government's case against the governor is not specifically transactional quid pro quo type corruption. There is an element of that, but there's this larger, murkier issue under the corruption statutes, the idea that the people of Virginia, in this instance, were denied the honest services of their duly elected governor by virtue of his alleged conduct. That includes the occasional nudge, if you will, alleged nudge for a Natablock, this dietary supplement that a fellow by the name of Johnny Williams was trying to get the governor to fully embrace, to commit state government to its development. It's issues such as the largesse of Mr. Williams. The government estimates at least $177,000 in unreported gifts, loans, cash, and the manner in which the governor went about not disclosing it. That would clearly suggest, the government says, that the governor was uncomfortable, if not nervous, with his dealings with Johnny Williams. And the government will get back to that issue when it has an opportunity to cross-examine the governor, perhaps starting this afternoon, maybe early next week.
Isn't the problem, however, from what I've read, and that's why I'm so happy to talk to you about it, because you know the law, I don't, that the law in Virginia allows a governor to accept basically any level of gifts, correct?
That is correct. Virginia's law hinges on disclosure, and disclosure is essentially the prerogative of the office holder or the appointee. There's a loophole in Virginia law. It says that an elective official or appointed official required to make these disclosures does not have to report gifts from personal friends. But the law does not define a personal friend. It's ultimately up to the official to police himself or herself. And what we're seeing in Giftgate is that for purposes of, and I choose my word wisely, non-disclosure, Johnny Williams for a long time was the governor's friend.
Yes. Right. Now, I want to... Maureen McDonald is also on trial, correct?
Affirmative.
Okay. So, if his defense is it was all her fault, what is her defense? Or does she need a defense if he gets off, right? Because she was not an elected official.
Certainly not an elected official or a public official as defined by law, but certainly a public figure. There seems to be no interest on the part of the defense of ever putting Mrs. McDonald on the stand. And, of course, under the law, there is this marital privilege that rooted in the ancient notion that the law should encourage the preservation of marriage and promote communications within a marriage, but that means that in court, essentially the testimony of a spouse can't be admitted against for the alleged misdeeds of the other spouse.
So she probably won't testify at all. Right.
I don't think anyone expects to see Mrs. McDonald on the stand, though there have been, as recently several days ago, efforts by the defense, by Mrs. McDonald's lawyers in particular, to again separate these trials. Judge James Spencer has denied this.
Yeah. Now, finally, yesterday you and I talked about. I asked you about the state of their marital status today, and the governor revealed he's living with his parish priest in the rectory.
That is correct.
How long has this been going on?
This has been going on for a bit. It's not entirely clear, certainly since the trial began, if not longer. My newspaper had reported that this was apparently the case. The rectory is at St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Church Hill, which is just east of the Capitol, where the governor toiled as governor, and a block beyond that, the courthouse where he is standing trial.
So at least it's convenient, right?
Yeah, there's a bus that runs right up Broad Street.
I'm telling you, you just can't make this up. This is so good. I mean, he and his wife separate. He moves in with his parish priest. Blessed be Father, for I have sinned. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we may have discussed, yesterday, marriage has always been an important component of Bob McDonnell's political story. He's a family values guy. He is closely aligned with the religious, cultural, and social right. He earned his law degree at Pat Robertson's law school, and of course, famously wrote that thesis as a law student, in which he said the government should be, committed to the preservation of family and marriage, and that federal policy was adrift, promoting cohabitation, fornication, and all sorts of apparent misdeeds. Those were some of his words. So, of course, that is being reconciled with this new image that the governor is presenting, and he argues, and he did it at considerable length yesterday, that his marriage has been in decline pretty much since he got into elective politics in 1991.
So there it is. Politics and marriage not going together. Well, I just regret that we're coming to the weekend and we're not going to have any more testimony on Saturday and Sunday. Is he on the stand today, Bob or Jeff?
Governor McDonnell returns to the stand today. It's not clear how much longer he'll be questioned by his attorneys. Of course, cross-examination by government prosecutors will be closely followed. You can imagine the length and depth of questioning by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Oh, boy, yeah, he better be ready for that. All right, Jeff Schapiro from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It's timesdispatch.com, and you can check out that great front page today. Jeff, thanks so much for getting up early for us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great one.
All right, Jeff Schapiro.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, good news on the Ebola front in Atlanta with 2 Americans infected with the Ebola virus. Both walked out of the hospital yesterday. Here's Dr. Kent Brantley.
Through the care of the Samaritan's Purse and SIM missionary team in Liberia, the use of an experimental drug, and the expertise and resources of the healthcare team at Emory University Hospital, God saved my life.
Yeah, good news on the Ebola front for those 2 Americans. Not such good news for those thousands of people in West Africa still infected with the Ebola virus, because the experimental medication which cured the 2 Americans, that's the supply of that has run out, and there are no plans to produce any more. The fact is, as the New Yorker magazine reports this week, that pharmaceutical companies are not interested in developing any medication to deal with the Ebola virus, because their interest is really only producing a medication for diseases that affect wealthy people in developing countries where they can make a lot more money. How sad.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use, which is a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Friday, August 22nd. How about it? Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers, good men and women. Teachers in the classrooms of America. Busy already, of course. School is back. Under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference every day. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, aft.org. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel yesterday with the head of the Joint Chiefs, General Martin Dempsey, talking about the threat of ISIS and the group, of course, which executed by beheading American photojournalist James Foley. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel saying we've never seen anything like them or as bad as them.
I think evidence is pretty clear when we look at what they did to Mr. Foley, what they threatened to do to all Americans and Europeans, what they are doing now. I don't know any other way to describe it other than barbaric.
Barbaric. Jeremy Herb is a defense reporter for Politico who's been covering ISIS. Joins us in our studio this morning. Hi, Jeremy. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Who are these ISIS people? Is this Al Qaeda in spades or what?
Well, that's certainly the way the Obama administration is portraying them. This group kind of started in Iraq. They're called Al Qaeda in Iraq, and they have sort of transformed and now broken off from the kind of core Al Qaeda. They, gained strength in Syria, and that's kind of in a lot of ways where they're based. And they've moved from Syria to Iraq as the Syrian civil war raged on. We heard from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs yesterday that border between Syria and Iraq is essentially gone now because it is under control of ISIS.
Right. So these are originally Al Qaeda people from Iraq, went into Syria, and now have this larger organization. Is that it?
That's correct.
Okay. And just for the record, we here on this program call them ISIS. If you hear ISIL, it's the same group, correct?
That is correct.
ISIL is using the old term Levant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the old term for that Tigris-Euphrates area. Yeah, okay. So I know the White House uses ISIL, National Journal uses ISIL, we use ISIS.
It's interesting.
Let's all get together here.
Yesterday, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dempsey, used ISIS, which is not the administration's line.
Oh.
He sort of, he just, I don't know if that's just his own personal thing, but that it was interesting that he switched from the ISIL to ISIS.
Most people.
My rule is we had Joe Cirancione in from the Plowshares Fund. He called it ISIS, and since he knows more about foreign policy stuff than anybody else I know, I'm going with ISIS.
Now, unlike Al Qaeda, these people they control a lot of territory already.
That's right.
What is their territory roughly?
So they have large portions of Iraq. They've taken territory. They have not advanced to Baghdad, but they've gone up into the north, and they also control significant territory in Syria. It's sort of Syria is kind of divided three ways between the Assad administration, the more moderate rebels, and then the Islamic rebels. So they have a kind of territory that we really haven't seen before from Al Qaeda, at least since 9/11.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Al Qaeda was they had camps here and there in other countries, but this is, I mean, ISIS is like in the process of carving their own country out of Iraq and Syria.
Yeah, they say they want to make an Islamic State, a caliphate. They have broad ambitions. They in Iraq and Syria. I think they of course would like to expand. They've talked about wanting to hit the U.S. I think there were reports of them saying fly the flag over the White House kind of thing.
Well, that guy was dispatched yesterday, so that one particular man who made that threat is no longer around. So this caliphate means this would be an Islamic extremist state under Sharia law. I mean, that's kind of what they're forming, correct?
That's what they'd like to do, yeah.
Yeah. So one difference with it between ISIS and Al Qaeda is that they control this territory. I saw one comment that the land they control right now is like as big as the country of Jordan already. I don't know whether it's true or not, but they also are self-financed, aren't they? I mean, they've found a way to really make money and finance a state.
Yeah, that's right. And
how are they doing it?
Well, a lot of it is through hostages, as we saw with journalist James Foley. They'd asked for the U.S. to pay $132 million or 100 euros. With more European hostages that they take, the sum is a lot smaller. It's a couple million, but that has helped them to finance their operations and get them going. They, of course, have taken over equipment from the Iraqi army, which has also kind of given them that money and power that we haven't seen before. And
I saw one report on CBS News where they've captured a few refineries, so they're selling oil. Mm-hmm. I mean, they charge merchants money for just being able to open their shops, and so there's a business sense to this organization we didn't see maybe with Al Qaeda. So the United States and Britain have refused to pay ransom. Most recently, as you point out, $132.5 million for James Foley. Other countries are paying?
Yeah, that's right. Some European countries have not had the same policy as the U.S., like Spain, France, some others. And that's that has given them money. It also has saved the lives of their hostages. And so, I think that debate is now playing out about should the U.S. have considered paying the ransom to save his life? I mean, we of course heard that a rescue mission was attempted, but that was not successful. And ISIS still does have, I think, at least 3 Americans. So we could see this debate playing out again in the near future.
All right. So now the question becomes: here's this threat. A more dangerous terrorist organization, perhaps, than we have ever seen before. What do we do about it, and what can we do about it, short of another war in the Middle East?
Well, that's not entirely clear. We heard from General Dempsey yesterday that if we aren't willing to go into Syria to go after them, that we aren't going to be able to eliminate them. He painted it in more of a long-term picture where we need to get a coalition together, and it's not necessarily U.S. troops that are going in. It's Iraqi troops or some other perhaps Middle Eastern countries' troops.
When he talks about going into Syria, are we talking an invasion of that part of Syria? Or are we talking airstrikes?
Well, it's got to go beyond airstrikes, was the way the general put it. Airstrikes, they have blunted ISIS's momentum. They stopped them in Erbil. They've taken back the dam. But as he said, they're going to regroup. This is not it's only temporary right now that we've done this. And so, airstrikes are helpful, but it's got to be one part of a broader, attempt or campaign to actually defeat them.
So are we being told kind of in advance by the Pentagon that we're looking at another ground war in that part of the world against now ISIS?
I don't think they're going that far because it's ultimately not up to the Pentagon. It's up to the president, of course. And he has been very clear, repeatedly saying, we are not sending ground troops back into Iraq. We're not sending combat troops in. And, I think, it's still unclear, I think, what that expanded mission was. Dempsey talked about it as a long-term thing, but it was he was very clear at the same time to say that the U.S. military is only one somewhat small portion of what's going to happen. It's got to be other militaries. It's got to be diplomatic, economic, and kind of all of those parts have to come together to actually eradicate them.
So is the goal or should our goal be to contain ISIS or to destroy them?
Depends who you ask. We've heard from John McCain, other defense hawks, that we're not doing enough right now, that these are half measures we're taking, that we need a more...
Well, even John Kerry this week said ISIS got to be wiped out.
That's right, he did. He said they should be destroyed. And I think, of course, I think the president and the Pentagon all believe that. It's just a question of how much should we do? The public, of course, is still very war-weary. At large, I think the public does not want the U.S. to be putting more troops on the ground and getting involved in what could be a long campaign in the Middle East. And so it's a tough balance in terms of how far can you go, to go towards the destruction of them versus how many resources do you want to put there.
But I hear you're saying, and I hear the Pentagon saying, is that these airstrikes alone are not going to be sufficient. They've done a lot of good so far. They certainly slowed them down, right? Enabled the Kurdish fighters to regroup, take the dam back, get the people off the mount. I forget the name of the mountain there, but right, the Yazidis, free them. Mm-hmm. And yet, ISIS still is there, and they still control a lot of territory and still control a lot of towns, right? Yeah. So it's going to take more than those airstrikes.
That's right. And so far, we haven't heard what that means. We haven't heard what that next step is. We heard, I think, in more stark terms than we have before yesterday from General Dempsey, from Secretary Hagel, that that we do have to do more, that this is not sufficient to go to actually destroy them. But we haven't heard from them, and even from lawmakers outside of the John McCains and Lindsey Grahams of Congress.
They want to bomb everybody everywhere. They want to bomb Ferguson, Missouri, probably. So, I'll say that you don't have to, but I sort of dismiss them because they're so predictable. Their answer to everything is bomb, 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 bomb. Right. So, but you're right. I haven't heard any other voices on either side, Democrat or Republican, say we got another war here we have to fight.
And it's interesting because it's recess right now. Congress is gone for a month. And so if this was September or, if it had been June, me and the other reporters on Capitol Hill would have all, asking every senator we could, what do you think about this? What should the U.S. do? What should the response be? We can't really do that right now. And some people have put out statements and some people have given some interviews. But for the most part, we don't know yet, what the rank and file opinion is. And if, this advance that ISIS has made, if the killing of James Foley, if that is changing opinions in, the rank and file.
ISIS may be the most dangerous terrorist threat we have met yet. Hard to believe. We thought by knocking down the leadership of Al-Qaeda, we might have solved this problem. No, somebody else ugly has popped up here. Now, what do we do about it? And is ISIS really a threat to the United States? We're discussing all of these issues with Jeremy Herb from the Politico, the defense reporter there. And look forward to your questions, your comments, your suggestions at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 12 minutes before the top of the hour. At the top of the next hour, we will be talking about the militarization of police, which has certainly become so evident after Ferguson, Missouri, and whether Congress is going to do anything to slow down, maybe, or stop this program of the Pentagon giveaways of all this military equipment to local police departments. We'll get into that, but right now we're talking about ISIS, the threat of ISIS, and what we can conceivably do about it. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel telling us yesterday that the United States, the world, has never seen a more serious threat than that posed by ISIS. We've never seen anything like that, worse even than Al-Qaeda. Jeremy Herb is in studio with us, defense reporter for Politico. Jeremy, again, thank you for being here. Before we continue, let's say a quick hello here to Rick, calling from Beloit, Wisconsin. Hi, Rick. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Listen, when it comes to we have a good president. We have a good president at a good time. I think we're safe in the hands of a pragmatic president, because really what we need to deal with is the religion aspect of Islam. I mean, like Christianity has gone through the gauntlet of proving its case. I mean, when you look at Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, Richard Dawkins, who are known as the Four Horsemen, and they're all atheists, and they come after Christianity and say, well, if this is what you guys say, this is what you guys should believe, and this is what you should do. Well, we keep hearing that Islam is the religion of peace, and I just think it's time for us to focus on the religion of Islam and have the 1 billion plus excellent Muslims start doing the work that happened in Christianity. When you look at Christianity, it was basically attacked academically and on a social level, pragmatically as well. And I just think that it changed over the years by being tested. You know, if this is a religion of peace, if Jesus saves, well, then let's see Jesus in action. If Muhammad is the prophet of Allah and Islam is a religion of peace, well, let's see it. Let's see it and then prove it. And let's go after their theology and after their behaviors for implementing that theology, just like Christianity.
Rick, I hear you. I think you made an excellent point. Jeremy, President Obama spoke to this Wednesday when he condemned ISIS and said, in effect, I'm paraphrasing, that no faith teaches people to go out and murder innocent civilians.
Yeah, that's right. He did. And we should note, too, that there have been condemnations. Saudi Arabia yesterday condemned ISIS and their actions. So that is certainly one element to see the Middle Eastern countries, to see if they are willing to kind of come together and, in a lot of ways, bridge some of those Sunni Shia divides and really go after them.
Yeah, I this is another whole conversation. As a Christian, I'm a critic of many people in Christianity who present the worst face of Christianity, I believe. And I've certainly been critical of the fact that there have not been, in my mind, enough Islamic leaders, enough Muslim leaders who've come forward to condemn what ISIS is doing, condemn what Hamas is doing. And we'll have another conversation about that. But right now, it's a practical conversation about what to do about ISIS. And one thing the president has said, I think, was hoping that the Iraqi army would be able to handle this situation once we got a new Iraqi leader and government. Looks like that might be happening now.
Yeah, that's right. They
still have to put together the new government.
They do. But the biggest thorn in the creation of that new government, the former prime minister now, al-Maliki, has relinquished power, and that was a step that we weren't sure if it was going to happen. It looked, he was sending some signals, like putting the army out on the streets, and there was concerns it could have been a civil war, and it could have been, a civil war going on while ISIS is also there, and it just, could have turned into another Syria.
Right. But so we have al-Adabi, right?
Yes.
And with his efforts right now to form a new government, and with a coalition government, maybe they could get themselves back on track. The other question I have about is, so what does this mean for Syria? I mean, Assad was the bad guy in Syria. And now it looks like we've forgotten about that civil war in Syria, right? And somebody has popped up who's even worse than Abad that we have to take care of.
Yeah, it's interesting because Assad and ISIS are also fighting. And, the question was asked of Hagel and Dempsey, does that, some way put us on the same side of Assad? They said it doesn't, that Assad was the root cause of this by, creating all this, the unrest in Syria, and that we still need, he's not part of the solution. But it's complicated. It's a very complicated situation when you've thrown ISIS in this like that. Iran also has a reason to want to check the power of ISIS too, and obviously we have some issues with them.
So if we look ahead, we are probably going to see more airstrikes against ISIS, and maybe even airstrikes against ISIS facilities inside of Syria. Is that correct?
Well, that's the next question. We authorized this mission to try and save Foley. The White House hasn't said yet if it's going to go into Syria with military action, but it hasn't ruled it out either. And as General Dempsey said, if you don't go after them in Syria, they have a safe haven there, and so we could certainly see that step in the future.
Greatest threat we have ever faced in terms of terrorist organizations with ISIS. Jeremy, thanks for being on top of this, and thanks for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, good to see you, Jeremy Harbert. Politico, Politico.com. Of course, we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, winding up hour number 2 here, but remember, there's a big third hour coming up you won't want to miss. You won't find us on Free Speech TV, sadly, but you can continue to watch on TawkrTV, our video stream, youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV. You know how to spell it by now. We're going to take a look at Ferguson up close in the next hour with Daniel Newhauser from the National Journal talking about Congress's efforts to militarize local police forces. Then we'll go on the ground in Ferguson with reporter Alex Bolton from The Hill, TawkrTV, on hour number 3.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right, no public events on the president's schedule for today, but I think you could all sum it up probably in 4 letters, GOLF. After all, it's Friday and Saturday, and he comes home on Sunday, so 2 more chances for 2 more rounds of golf for the president up in Martha's Vineyard. When we come back, we'll take a look at the latest on the situation in Ferguson and the militarization of local police departments.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's 2, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The National Guard packing up and moving out of Ferguson, Missouri. Things getting back to normal there, which is good news. Now we wait for the grand jury to decide on charges against Officer Darren Wilson. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show on a Friday, August 22nd. So good to see you today. And good to have you with us. I know you're anxious to get into the weekend, but not quite yet. We got another hour to go here with lots to talk about. Thanks so much for joining us here on this Friday again on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., of course, our studio on Capitol Hill, there for you on your local progressive talk radio station, again, and on Free Speech and TawkrTV. Lisa Murphy's got the day off. Peter Ogburn here, as always.
Happy Friday.
Alicia Cruz on the phones, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, keeping us looking good on that worldwide video stream. Well, they got together again yesterday, I think for the first time in a couple of years, out in Chicago. It was Mitt Romney and who's that guy he ran with again? Who's that guy?
Who was that guy?
Was it Sarah Palin? No, it was somebody else. No, of course, Paul Ryan, the two of them, and Mitt Romney. There's a real bromance going on here.
I made a couple of good decisions in my life. One was who I married, and the other was who I chose to be my running mate. And there was no better person to be Vice President of the United States than Paul Ryan.
Yeah, well, he's got to say that, of course. And then Mitt says, now, Paul, I've had my turn. I encourage you to go for it this time. But Paul Ryan thinks maybe Mitt Romney ought to try it again.
So if you get the chance to run for president, do it. It's a great thing.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
That was Paul Ryan throwing in there. Third time's a charm for Mitt Romney. I don't think so. That second time was such a disaster. I don't think anybody wants to see Mitt Romney try it again.
Who is honestly asking for that?
No.
You see these stories pop up every so often.
I'll tell you who
really
is.
wants it.
Hillary Clinton.
It's a good point.
Yes, Hillary Clinton wants Mitt Romney to run again. Yeah, another 47% comment. Okay, we're going to talk militarization of local police departments here in this hour, and also go out to Ferguson, visit with Alexander Bolton, who is there for The Hill, live on the ground in Ferguson. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Remember how bad last winter was, Bill?
I do.
It was very cold. It was very rough for many.
But I liked it.
I agree, but there was a lot of snow for many parts of the country. Well, if you liked last winter, you're going to love this winter. According to the Old Farmer's Almanac, it released its 223rd edition on Wednesday, and it said that it's calling for a, quote, super cold winter for the eastern two-thirds of the United States this year. So get ready for it. It's going to be even colder than last year.
Super cold.
Super cold.
And super precipitation, I guess. Goes with it.
Man, I'm just gearing up for it already.
All right, I'm ready.
Are you now? The Ice Bucket Challenge strikes again. Lindsay Lohan was in the New York City nightclub Up and Down, where sources say she insisted on doing the Ice Bucket Challenge in the middle of the dance floor using 2 champagne buckets. Never mind the fact that there was no one there to film it, and no one was really watching her. She just sort of dumped water on herself in the middle of a nightclub and said it was for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I don't think that's how it works.
Well, that's the old question, like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it make any sound?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you take the Ice Bucket Challenge and you don't videotape it,
did it really happen?
Does it count?
Good question.
Send a check, Lindsay. Send a check. That's more important.
And in Minnesota, the Minnesota State Fair is underway, known for a lot of things. Mostly it's food on a stick. But for the second year in a row, a crowd pleaser is back on the menu from Lift Bridge Brewing Company. They are going to be serving mini donut beer.
What does that mean?
I'm glad you asked, Bill. I'm glad you asked. The mini donut beer has a warm tan color like the exterior of a mini donut, a malty base, and natural flavors to give a rich flavor that tastes not unlike cinnamon and sugar covered mini donut.
Why don't you just have
you want to have
donut on one side and then
a beer on the other?
Right.
You just dunk it and sure.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There you go. Mini donut beer. What a time to be alive.
Another reason I'm glad that I turned down Carol's request to go to the Minnesota State Fair this year.
Did you really? Yeah. This was a possibility. I went that one year that the Republican convention was in Minnesota. I went to the Minnesota State Fair. I had the most wonderful time.
I'm sure you had a better time than I had at the Republican National Convention.
That's true.
All right, it's 12 minutes after the hour. A lot of issues, a lot of questions that have come out of the recent events in Ferguson, Missouri. One of the big ones is, what the hell are the police departments doing with all of this heavy military gear? Looking at the scenes, the nightly TV scenes from Ferguson, you might have thought they were talking about what's happening in Gaza, or the latest report, or maybe a rerun of the shock and awe days of Baghdad. No, it was Ferguson, Missouri. What's that all about? Daniel Newhauser has been covering this issue for some time now, congressional reporter for the National Journal, and joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Daniel, nice to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bill.
Right. Where did this whole militarization start?
Well, the modern iteration of it can be traced back to 1990 when Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act. This was largely in response to the war on drugs coming out of the 80s, and basically what it does, it allows the Pentagon to loan local police departments, county police departments all around the country, all kinds of gear. And it shouldn't be mistaken for just weapons and vehicles, although that is part of it. I mean, we're talking about everything down to underwear and computers. I mean, they loan them all kinds of things, and they have an itemized list of everything that they've...
This is armored underwear or something?
Well, I don't know. If it is, that hasn't been part of the discussion, really. I don't think anyone's mad about the kind of underwear that the police have.
I was just wondering if it's special underwear, like the Mormons wear or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't know. But, so the $4.3 billion worth of equipment over that time frame. Just last year, we're talking $449 million. And certainly the Ferguson Police Department got some of this. They got some Humvees. They have a cargo trailer, a generator. St. Louis County Police Department got a bunch of rifles, guns, several
obviously armored vehicles.
Well, that's funny. The Ferguson Police Department, the vehicles they got actually were not armored. So there's some question about whose vehicles were at the scene, and it could have been the county police department.
That's what I heard. It was the county
right,
police with these mine-proof.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. So it is those images coming out of there. It's stirring up a lot of discussion, among the public and among members of Congress. The president has mentioned it. Holder has mentioned it. So we'll see if this actually ends up with any kind of action.
All right. So it started in the 90s, and I guess the pace quickened after September 11?
Certainly, yeah. The mission expanded to, sort of a post-9/11 anti-terrorism sort of capacity. They want to allow these small police departments to potentially respond to, a terrorist attack. But we've seen, and some of the late night shows have been lampooning this already. We've seen, a very, very small police departments identifying as potential targets, like their pumpkin fair, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that's caused some, Rand Paul, for instance, penned an op-ed for Time magazine saying that there's a cartoonish imbalance, that's his quote, between the small police departments and the kind of armor that they have.
Well, I thought Rand Paul made a good point. And Peter, have we? I don't know whether we posted my column for today yet.
We will. Not yet. It hasn't been posted yet, but we'll put it out there.
It's out there. Where my column that I write for the Chicago Tribune on shock and awe in Ferguson, and I quote Rand Paul saying, "There's got to be a difference between a military response and a police response to events. And in Ferguson, Missouri, it was hard to tell. It was
Right.
hard to tell the difference. But I want to ask you, Daniel, you use the phrase that they loan this equipment. Do they loan it, do they sell it, or do they give it away?
Well, that's what people are saying, the defenders of this program are saying that is the benefit. You know, these police departments have relatively small budgets, you know, they're in the millions.
Right.
And this is very, very expensive
And the
equipment.
Pentagon has a lot of surplus equipment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
So they essentially give it, but it's really a loan. They can take it back anytime.
Oh, they
so
can.
The interesting thing about this is Secretary of Defense Hagel has the capacity to end this program unilaterally. He could take back equipment. He can review it. Just last night, in fact, William Lacey Clay, the congressman who represents the Ferguson area and St. Louis, as well as Emmanuel Cleaver, the only other Democrat in the House delegation, met with Hagel. This was last night. I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, but they put out a statement saying that they had a productive talk and they hope that Hagel will review the program. But Hagel himself hasn't quite gone so far as to say that he will yet. So we'll see. It might not even need any congressional action.
So right. So even without congressional action, he could Hagel could slow it down.
Right.
Say, bring this stuff back here, or we're not going to do any more of these, or whatever.
Or I guess what the main request from opponents of this program now is to limit the kinds of equipment. We don't need to be giving tanks, is what they're saying. We don't need to be giving up-armored Humvees, military-style weapons. It's not necessary. That's what the main critique is.
What I found interesting, and by the way, is it Emma Roller? Is that your colleague?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I read an article that she, in National Journal, in fact, I quoted again in my column.
Oh, good.
Where she put the number of vehicles, like 492, but whatever, sticks in my head. There were 400, almost 500 armored vehicles that are mine-proof or whatever. They've got the solid plating on the bottom. I mean, they really
the MRAPs you're talking about, right?
Is that what it is?
I think.
They really think protesters are going to be planting mines in the streets of.
Well, that's
Ferguson,
the question.
Missouri.
Yeah, the imbalance.
So when the National Guard moved in, usually the local police are not able to control something, so the president or the governor will call in the National Guard. When the National Guard moved into Ferguson, they were tame by comparison. It looked like. I mean, they didn't have as much equipment as the local police department in St. Louis County had.
Right, and they're wearing camouflage.
Right.
What are they camouflaging for? I mean, they're in the middle of a city. I mean, I would have to guess that an element of it is shock. To try to put down the protests by sheer show of force. But the problem is they're actually using that. I mean, there's been tear gas and rubber bullets and wooden bullets and all kinds of things used at the scene there. Photos of people with huge welts on their stomach by being shot.
And then the question that it also raises is whether that show of force is effective in taming, the violence or generating more.
Well, I guess it's got to be case to case, but as we've seen in Ferguson, it seemed only to rile things up.
Mm-hmm. Because people are not so much fearful as they're angry, that the police would respond with such a massive show of force.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, and we've seen this kind of thing happen. I mean, I guess during the Occupy protests, it was the same types of show of force. I mean, it essentially does seem to escalate a situation because people do get angry about, why are they using this kind of equipment on us? Why are they pointing guns at us? We also have the video now of the officer who was pointing his rifle at protesters and saying he's going to kill them. That doesn't seem to help.
Alexia Campbell, also one of your colleagues, was in studio with us a couple of days ago, and she pointed out she was there in Ferguson and saw the police pointing their guns at peaceful protesters. And the laser beam, like right on their chest, and of course the one officer saying, "I'm going to effing kill you." Mm-hmm. Now we've seen then Rand Paul, conservative Republican, President Obama, Elizabeth Warren, among others, who have come out and said, this is not the proper role for local police departments. There's got to be a basic. It all depends on a basic level of trust between the police officer and the community, and that kind of show of force erodes that trust. Given that response, can we expect any change in this program?
Well, if the change you're looking for is from Congress, I would not hold your breath on it. I mean, especially between now and the end of the year, they have basically 2 legislative weeks left. and they'll be dealing with a continuing resolution. I mean, the Senate has said that they
can't get anything done. Let's face it, right?
Yeah, and and the question is how much of an appetite there is to get something done. They voted to limit this program, or they voted on an amendment that would have limited this program during the appropriations process last year. Overwhelmingly, about 350 to 60 voted not to do it, not limit it.
In other words, to continue the program.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's an interesting convergence when you look at the votes. It's sort of progressive liberal Democrats and libertarian leaning Republicans. So it's another one of those issues that's bringing together these
left and right.
Yeah, left and right, but the diverse elements of the left and the right. The Rand Paul types and the Alan Grayson was the guy who brought the amendment to begin with. One of the probably most liberal members of the House. Just from a pure timing point of view, I don't think that they have time, at least not this year, to do it. It's still a question of whether the sort of anger will blow over. Are people going to have sustained anger at this? And then, do House Republicans actually want to do this? I talked to a top staffer for Buck McKeon, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and he was defending the program, saying that most of the things that they give to the local police departments are, soft materials, computers, and so on and so forth, and underwear, like we talked about earlier. It saves money, it protects the officers. We haven't heard the NRA get involved yet. Where do they stand on this? We've seen the Fraternal Order of Police, criticizing the president for being critical of the police response. Once all the outside groups get in, where does that leave things? There's just too many factors right now to say for sure, but generally, like you said, if you're going to ask the question, is Congress going to do X, you have to pretty much start with the answer no and go from there.
This year particularly, and this year of midterm elections particularly. Daniel Newhauser with us from the National Journal. Militarization of local police departments, necessary or overkill? 866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov. If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Did you commit to change the world?
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, out on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri, with Alex Bolton from The Hill in the next segment. Right now, Daniel Newhauser is with us from National Journal. And Daniel, the point you were making is that this really, the question of militarization of the police have to be seen in the whole post 9/11 security question, I guess, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you take the 10,000-foot view here, the sort of public outrage over NSA spying, even outrage over TSA, why do you have to take off your shoes? Why do you have to go through full body scans? I mean, there was a time after 9/11, you remember people were saying we have to give up our civil liberties to protect our public security. But now I think people are starting to re-examine the role of the security state. Should police have these kinds of weapons? Should the NSA be listening to my phone calls? Should I have to take off my shoes when I get on a plane? So, it's a healthy conversation to be having. And in the absence of any kind of a big terrorist event, people are starting to kind of think about their own civil liberties again.
Yeah, that's certainly the part of the conversation that comes out of Ferguson, Missouri, for sure. An important conversation to have. Daniel Newhauser, you can follow his good work at nationaljournal.com. And thanks for being on top of this and for coming in today.
Thanks.
This is the Bill Press Show. When it comes to sales, we don't do 4 a.m. snooze you lose deals. Instead, we
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just finish the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Brought to you today, the Bill Press Show, by the International Association of Machinists, the good men and women of the Machinists Union, under President Tom Buffenbarger, sharpening America's edge on the global economy. You bet. And for more information, you can visit their website, and we encourage you to do so, to goiam.org. Governor Jay Nixon in Missouri yesterday telling the National Guard things have quieted down enough that you can pack up and go home, making it maybe easier for reporters on the scene like the Hill's Alexander Bolton to do their job. Alex joins us on our newsline this morning from Ferguson, Missouri. Hi, Alex. Good morning. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, tell us about the scene last night in Ferguson.
Well, the scene last night was pretty calm, and it's been calm since Holder got out here. It's reassured people in the community of Ferguson that the government's actually taking their case pretty seriously, and they're really serious about finding justice for Michael Brown. You know, the problem was that they just had no confidence in the prosecutor, and they had no confidence in the mayor or the police chief. They had no confidence in the local officials. But now that Holder has stepped in and the federal government's getting more involved, I think it's had a calming effect. And, really what's going on here is it's a long-running feud between the local officials, the county officials, and the black community here. And that was seen, I think, in this very militarized police response. And the African American folks here in Ferguson see that they think the federal government is on their side. And one of the things they point to is early during the protests, there were actually plainclothes FBI agents walking with the protesters, and we're witnessing some of this very harsh response by the county police dressed in full combat gear and riot gear. And so, the rumor on the street is that the word kind of filtered back through Holder to Jay Nixon that, look, you need to get the police here to cool it a little bit and ease off with the tear gas and the riot batons, and that's what they've done. So all together the temperature has lowered, and I think we're going to continue to see some relatively calm protests. I don't think we're going to see the clashes that we did earlier in the week as we head to Michael Brown's funeral on Monday.
What role has Captain Ron Johnson played in all of this? He also seems to be a calming presence out there.
Well, I mean, if you ask me, I think it's just a PR move by the county police. They say that the highway patrol is in charge, but honestly, Bill, it seems to me that they're saying that so they can put Ron Johnson up at the podium, who happens to be an African American, and it addresses their image problem. And their image problem is they have a bunch of white cops beating up on a bunch of black protesters. And it's a continuation of what happened with Michael Brown, this police brutality that's very racially charged in nature. So, as to Ron Johnson and what he's all about, I mean, I talked to some people in Ferguson yesterday, and I mean, I talked to one African American protester who called Ron Johnson a puppet, and he gets up at the podium and he reads this prepared statement. I'm not, supposedly he's in charge, but I'm not really sure if that's the case, honestly. But that's just my impression looking at it.
Well, and you're reading on the ground that you're there. That's why we wanted to talk to you and find out what's really going on. Is there any word from the grand jury? They did convene. Are they still meeting? And when will we learn whether or not they're going to recommend any charges against Officer Darren Wilson?
Well, I talked to Lacey Clay. He's the congressman representing St. Louis and Ferguson, and I asked him that question. He said, no one knows the answer to that, and he just met with Holder not yesterday, but the day before, and the grand jury process is a secretive process, so we don't know how long it's going to take, or when they're going to come up with an indictment, or if they're going to come up with an indictment. But something that Clay did tell me is that he has zero confidence, and he was very blunt about this. He has zero confidence in the prosecutor, Robert McCullough, and of course, many of the protesters have called for McCullough to step down.
Right.
So, I'm not sure whether there's necessarily going to be an indictment, and at least from the perspective of the congressmen and the people on the streets who are protesting, they don't think that McCullough really wants to get an indictment. So that while he may have defeated the grand jury, I think they're very skeptical as to whether that's going to produce anything, and as to what the timeline might be. Who knows? It's really a question mark.
So they're looking more at, I guess, than the Department of Justice investigation and filing of maybe a civil rights complaint against Michael Brown as more likely than an indictment on murder charges. Is that right?
I think, again, speaking to Clay, his confidence Holder. Now, of course, Holder is not investigating a murder. In fact, he's just looking at a potential civil rights investigation.
Yeah.
What he's looking at really is he's looking at a pattern of enforcement, and what he wants to know is whether the police department here has had a discriminatory pattern of enforcement, really focusing on young African-American males, low income, and really picking on them, piling a lot of tickets on them, and just harassing them constantly. But Holder doesn't really have the jurisdiction over the murder itself. That's up to the prosecutor, McCullough. And I think what we're seeing here is after Holder came out here and met with Nixon and met with the U.S. attorney, I think there's subtle pressure being put on McCullough to really take this investigation seriously and try to come up, with charges, formal charges, if they appear to be warranted, and they certainly do appear to be warranted just from the anecdotal evidence we're hearing so far of what happened between this officer and Michael Brown.
On that point, now again, we're talking with Alexander Bolton from The Hill. He's on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri, thehill.com. Alex, I know there are conflicting witnesses, but what have you been able to piece together from the people you've talked to as to that point? What happened between Michael Brown and Officer Wilson?
Well, from talking to people in the community who have been, who have, and apparently I have not seen the videos on Facebook, but apparently on social media, I'm told that there are videos. There's a video of the conversation. I haven't seen it myself, but what's been described to me is that Michael Brown was walking down the middle of the street in kind of this residential area. I walked by it last night. It kind of looks like the projects, really. There are these, multi-family unit housing. Michael Brown's walking down the middle of the street, but I was told that that's not so unusual because people just walk down the middle of the street around there. It's pretty residential, not a lot of car traffic. Apparently, the officer put up behind him in the car, stopped short, and actually I spoke to Michael Brown's cousin about this. The officer, stopped short, swung open the door of his car. Apparently, he opened the door so forcefully that it snapped back in his face. if you ever like really pull a car door open, it's got that that resistance, so it snapped back in his face and hit him, and so it was kind of an embarrassing situation for him. And he may have thought that Brown had kicked the door back in his face, and maybe that's why he was so angry. And then they started tussling, and then eventually Brown got shot and killed. And if you look at the autopsy report, though, the fatal bullet entered the top of his head, so he was sent over, and it doesn't appear to have been a close-range shot, but there weren't any powder burns. So, it looks like, it looks like there was a...
Is there any credence?
Yeah?
Is there any credence to the reports that Michael Brown had his hands up in the air saying, "Don't shoot"? I mean, that's become the theme of the protesters, right? Hands in the air, don't shoot.
I have been talking to people on the ground. I've been covering the protests. I have not, I've talked to people who they've seen video posted on Facebook that show, the confrontation. I haven't seen that. I don't know if it's actually out there. I can't imagine that people have seen it.
All right, I got that.
But, I think whether it's anything done, I don't know.
All right.
The investigation's trying to figure out as they talk to people. They're 40 FBI agents, they're interviewing a bunch of people, so I guess we'll find out from those.
We'll find out from them, Alex, yeah. All right, Alex, listen, good work out there, as always. Good to have you on the ground, and thank you for checking in with us today. Alexander Bolton from The Hill, senior staff writer of TheHill.com.
This is The Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Press Show.
Bill Press Show brought today in part by LifeLock.com. For LifeLock Ultimate Plus, that is the best and the most comprehensive ID theft protection available today. It's what I have, and you need protection against identity theft. When you hear a story like this, Community Health Systems, big operation. They operate 206 hospitals across 28 states. Their biggest hospitals are in Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Texas, reporting this week that hackers broke into their computers and stole data on more than 4.5 million patients. Those people all...
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward.
Friday, August 22nd, and every Friday we like to just take a little time out, look back at our favorite sound bites of the week, sort of wrapping up the flavor of the week. We start at the bottom, work our way up to the top. On Bill's birthday, Kevin Spacey and Hillary had a little bit of fun about what they might get Bill for his birthday. And the biggest question facing the Clinton family, of course, is not whether or not Hillary should run, but what they're going to name the kid.
Number 5.
Look, we have to talk about this baby name for Chelsea. Now, I was thinking, if it's a boy, we should encourage them to name him Frank. And if it's a girl, what do you think about Claire?
Well, I was actually thinking of pushing for the name Kevin if it's a boy. Kevin, will you please just sign my husband's birthday card already?
All right, they had a little fun with that. And David Letterman, like a lot of other people, had fun with President Obama interrupting his vacation on Martha's Vineyard to come back to Washington for 2 days. Nobody could figure out why he came back to Washington, but David Letterman maybe has the answer.
Number 4.
President Obama, I don't know, he had a vacation. He was up in Martha's Vineyard, and he had to go back early. See, I mean, run for president? Really? No. You going to run for president? Never. I mean, anybody lining up to run?
No, sir.
I mean, there's maybe, after Hillary, maybe there's another guy, and that's it. Who honestly? No. He had to cut his vacation short 2 days to go back to Washington. And you know why? Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, had locked himself out of the White House.
So President Obama's the only one that had the spare key, had to come back and help him out. Well, they got together again yesterday in Chicago. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, remember them? They actually ran for president in 2012. It's easy to forget about that campaign. But yesterday, Mitt Romney encouraging Paul Ryan to take his turn this year. Paul Ryan suggesting maybe Mitt ought to take another run.
Number 3.
So if you get the chance to run for president, do it. It's a great, great thing. The third time's a charm. Yeah.
Third time's a charm. Well, yeah. That's the last thing anybody wants. Nobody's talking about Mitt Romney running again for a third time.
You know, every now and then you'll see somebody throw this out there, like random poll shows Mitt Romney leading in front of other Republican candidates. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You run with that if you want to run with that.
Hillary Clinton's the one who puts that idea out there.
That's a good point.
Because that's what she wants to happen. All right. Okay. We are into such summer fun here in Washington, D.C. with our Washington Nationals. They are red hot. Last night they won their 10th game in a row, and 5 out of the 6 last games have been walk-off games where they've won in the very, very bottom of the last inning. One of the most exciting ones was the other night when Adam LaRoche hits a home run in the bottom of the 11th inning. Charlie Slows from WJFK picks up the excitement.
Number 2.
Here's the 3-1 to LaRoche. Swing and a long drive. Deep right field. Forget about it. Going. Goodbye. Roche has done it again. And for the third straight day, it's a game-winning walk-off for the Nationals.
Yeah, walk-off. And another one last night.
Another one last night.
And the night before. Another walk-off. And Peter, you were there for yesterday's game.
I was indeed, yeah. People are excited.
Yeah, well, tonight could be number 11.
It could.
Is it still, the Giants come in?
The Giants are in town this weekend.
Yeah, maybe a little tougher than the Diamondbacks, huh?
We'll see.
Yeah.
But you had the best advice. Why sit through a whole baseball game?
Yeah. If you're planning on watching any of the Nats game today or listening to it or going to the game, just go for the last half of the last inning.
That's it.
That's all you need because that's when they bring it off. And finally, the Ice Bucket Challenge this week. Former President George W. Bush at first says, no, I'm not going to do this stupid thing, but maybe Laura has a different idea.
Number 1.
I do not think it's presidential for me to be splashed with ice water, so I'm simply going to write you a check.
Ow! There it is. Ow!
That check is for me. I don't want to ruin my hairstyle.
Now it's my privilege to challenge my friend Bill Clinton to the ALS challenge. Yesterday was Bill's birthday, and my gift to Bill is a bucket of cold water.
So far, Bill hasn't responded. I don't think you're going to see Bill sitting there and Hillary dumping a bucket of ice water on top of it.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Although it probably wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
Certainly not the first time she's wanted to do it.
Seriously.
All right. There are clips for the week. We'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people. Any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
And on this Friday, August 22nd, my parting shot for today, it was indeed great to see the 2 Americans infected with the Ebola virus walk out of the hospital yesterday. Neither Dr. Kent Brantley nor Nancy Wright Ball have any trace of Ebola left in their bloodstream at all. Good news, their total recovery from such a deadly disease is indeed a miracle of modern medicine. What's tragic, however, is that supplies of the experimental drug that cured the 2 of them are already exhausted, and there are no plans to make any available to the thousands of people now suffering from the disease in West Africa. Since the Ebola virus was first discovered in 1976, in fact, no drug has ever been approved to treat the disease for one simple reason: because big pharmaceutical companies are only interested in producing drugs to treat diseases that impact wealthy people in developed countries where they can make a lot of money. In other words, why waste time finding a cure for Ebola when you can manufacture and sell Viagra pills for only $7 each? So, sorry, all you poor souls in Africa still suffering from the Ebola virus. We cured 2 Americans, but still no medicine for you. You're just going to have to wait or die. That's my parting shot for today, folks. On that note, put it all behind you, all the bad news of the week. This is the weekend. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. Recharge your batteries. And then come on back and see us again Monday morning. We'll be looking for you.
This is the
Have
Bill
a good one.
Press Show.